Well, welcome to Rural Strong Live. It's great to be back and with you tonight. We have, really special guests for you. It may be wintertime, but the grass is thriving. And I tell you, a special guest here out of Kentucky and also have ties to the Nashville, Tennessee area. They have a style that they describe as being between traditional bluegrass and jamgrass. The Wooks have a single out and a new album that's going to drop in February. So tonight we welcome in band members George Guthrie and Alan Cook to tell us more. And guys, welcome into Rural Strong Live.
Thanks.
Hey,
Excited to be here.
Yep.
And a couple of other members of the group, CJ Kane and Harry Clark. They said they had better things to do tonight and didn't have time for this nonsense. So they're not here. But actually, no, that's not the case at all. We understand one is under the weather, so we wish him the best, and another is out of town. So we've got these guys holding it down for us tonight, and we sure do appreciate it. And guys, tell me about that dynamic. You got a couple of members that are out of town. How does all that work when it comes time to get together to be the Wooks?
Well, we just kind of get in our cars and pick a meeting place and meet up and make the music happen, Well, fortunately, we all live in a similar region. We got most of the guys here in the Nashville area, but we still have our founding member, CJ, up in Lexington, Kentucky. And, it's about a 2.5, 3 hour drive. But, when we get to play some bluegrass together, it's not too bad. So.
Yes, and Harry Clark being the other member here, and he's not too far either, is he?
Yeah.
Him and I are actually roommates, so usually,
okay.
Yeah, usually when he's not under the weather, he's hanging out here and not with the old lady. But
there you go.
Yeah. A lot of music to make when you live with a band member. It's awesome.
Yeah. Well, does it ever get old, or you guys just always enjoy that creative energy of being able to pick up and play whenever you want?
Oh, it doesn't get old. It's just the little things, normal life stuff, not the music stuff.
Right.
So, yeah.
We're getting old, but the music is fresh.
I can certainly feel that. Well, I tell you what, before we get things going tonight, will you kick us off with the song?
Sure, man. We're going to play an old fiddle tune called the Dixie Hoedown.
Oh yeah, great stuff. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. It's fun to be.
Again, we're with George Guthrie and Alan Cook of the Wooks. If you're just joining us here, and the group actually began as a duo in 2014 with CJ and Arthur Hancock. Walk us through the evolution of the band, because the band's story, to me, it seems like a testament to the fact that sometimes you just have to go where life takes you.
Yeah, that's right. You know, the band has evolved a lot over time, you know, and with members coming and going. And it started as a duo with CJ and Arthur, and, you know, they formed a band around their shared love of bluegrass and old time music. And, you know, being in that scene, they got involved in the community, and they traveled around and played at different festivals and attracted new people to join the band. And as life often, you know, happens, it's, you know, folks come and go, life circumstances pull people away, and new people join the band and keep the flame going, you know. And Alan and I are proud to be keeping the Wook, you know, tradition alive, even though we were not there at the beginning. But
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
yeah.
How did each of you connect?
Well, I guess I'll start with myself. I am the most recent member to the group. Joined March of 2020, like basically right before the pandemic really went down. Convenient time to join a band, I guess. I don't know. It was interesting, but I'm glad I got that offer before all that, because it got me very excited and got me through, you know, that first initial dark time there. But I had known all these guys for a while. I've known CJ since I was a little kid. Both him and his dad would come out to Colorado, which is where I'm from, and attend the Rocky Grass Bluegrass Festival. And that's a festival I grew up going to, and didn't miss a year until, I guess, the pandemic, really. And so I knew CJ and his dad from that. And then, you know, when the Wooks came along, they'd always stop in Colorado and stay with my folks some, and I'd get to sit in with them. And yeah, and then I also knew George because he once lived in Colorado.
Yeah, it's crazy. So Alan and I actually were friends before we joined the Wooks. You know, I used to live in Denver, and Alan was up in Boulder, and we played in a band called Caribou Mountain Collective out there that was active kind of around the time the Wooks were getting started. And, you know, we were kind of fans of the Wooks from afar, and it's, you know, we would ride around in our other band van listening to the Wooks, having no idea, you know, how fate would play out, and we would, you know, life circumstances would change, and we would wind up in another band together. So it's been a wild ride, man. But yeah, I joined in 2018, summer of 2018, and you know, I guess most of that time now has been this crazy pandemic. So it's been a wild ride, but we're super thrilled that we have this new album, you know, made and ready to release.
Yeah.
And you know, we've got a whole string of tour dates lined up behind it. So, you know, we're chomping at the bit to get back out there and really realize the full potential of the band. So
Yeah.
All right. Well, if the pandemic did nothing, it gave everybody plenty of time to sit back and write music and just kind of prepare for that next phase, didn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this record was made during the pandemic, and you know, having all that free time allowed us to, you know, write more and really kind of make this record without any, you know, distractions of being lured away by gigs and other things. You might say we had a little too much time to to reflect on the record, because, you know, we got a little carried away in the editing process. But yeah, it was kind of it was a silver lining of the pandemic for sure, having some time to make a new record. And take a pause. We've been playing music professionally for, probably 8 or 10 years now. And, kind of just as you have to be in the industry, you kind of got to go and say yes to everything. So, it was nice to have some time to chill out. It got a little bit rough, as it dragged on, and we really wanted to be back out there, but,
Right.
it's looking like, we'll be back out there soon. So
I love it. And we'll get into talking about those tour dates a little bit later on. But, it's always fascinating for me to find out about the musical backgrounds of the guests we have here on the show. And George, I'll start with you. And then Alan, tell me a bit about your earliest recollections of music entering your life and who you grew up listening to.
yeah, so I do not come from a particularly musical family. Although my mom is a music lover, and when we were kids, she sort of signed us up for piano lessons just as sort of like a after school hobby, every month or something. And I really took to it and had an interest and, had a good ear. That was apparent pretty early on, but I didn't really have anyone in my family who I could play music with. I was kind of just doing it, through the lessons. And then in high school, I got into guitar and became really into rock and roll, and I started learning guitar and at that point started to make friends, with other guys who were musicians in my area. But, I always had to kind of seek it out on my own. It was not something that was just part of my household. The way it often is with bluegrass people, bluegrass is such a family affair sometimes with bands and stuff. And I love that. But yeah, it's always been something I had to go on a journey to find, elsewhere. And I love it. I love the journey and seeking out new vibes and new styles. And it's kind of what led me here to be a banjo player, so.
Well, did you find bluegrass or did bluegrass find you?
It kind of found me in high school. When I was in high school, I moved to Virginia, and I found a guitar teacher there who was teaching through the school. And, I wanted to study like rock and jazz and stuff. And I did with him, but I came to find out that he was also a bluegrass picker, and he turned me on to some great recordings, like Tony Rice and J.D. Crowe and Ricky Skaggs and stuff. And he really opened the door for me. And I can't say that if I hadn't had that one particular teacher, if I would have, followed the musical path I had. But consequently, I did, seek out a lot of that on my own. I kind of got the bug and wanted to find as much of it as I could, and I just kind of went down the rabbit hole, and I'm still down there.
Yeah.
Find my way out.
You consider yourself to be a student of it now?
Yeah, always, man. I'll be a student, as long as I live. How about you, Alan?
Well, yeah. So I guess my earliest recollections of music definitely came from going to that Rocky Grass Festival presented by Planet Bluegrass in Lyons, Colorado, which was about 15 minutes from the house I grew up in. And my folks started bringing the family out there probably when I was as young as 5 years old. And we didn't miss a year. And I continued going. I literally got over 20 years in a row there. And it was such a great place to be exposed to the music. And, very early on, it just was part of, I don't know, it just felt normal, like the thing you do over the summer. And eventually I started playing guitar, took some flat picking lessons. And I guess my folks, nobody else in the family were very big into playing. They played some piano, but not bluegrass. But we had close family friends who were very much into it. So I latched onto it through people around me in the festival and loved taking the flat picking guitar lessons. And eventually I got an electric guitar and got a little wild in high school and played pretty loud and did some other things. And coming out of that and getting back into bluegrass was where I realized I wanted to play the dobro, because it kind of combined some of the interesting components that I like about electric guitar in a bluegrass setting. Like you can really make a note sing more, like bending an electric guitar string or something. And yeah, so I guess, yeah, that's where the dobro journey started, was end of high school going onwards. And I have a wide array of musical influences, but it's mostly bluegrass and older rock, anything with slide or steel. I like stuff that makes you move too, both emotionally and physically on the dance floor, I guess. But
Right. Have you gotten into playing steel at all?
I do have some lap steels and experiment that way, but I've yet to dive into pedal steel. That is such a daunting world, but such an amazing instrument with so many possibilities that, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Here in Nashville, I have a few friends that do pretty well on that, so I'm excited to exploit those resources someday.
Well, it's just encouraging to me to know that there's some people out there still playing it.
Yeah, totally.
Well, I know it's one thing to do it on your own, but how special is it when you can connect with the right group of people to come together as a musical act?
Man, I mean, it's great, man. I mean, that's really the most rewarding thing about music for me, is being able to get together with other people and do it, you know. And it kind of gets back to like me finding music kind of on my own and having to seek it out and find other people to play with. But yeah, you know, it's a language, and it's sort of a basis on which you can connect with other people and be creative and create something that's bigger than just our individual styles or picking ability, you know. And I really think that is present in the style and mission of the Wooks. You know, we try to create a band sound, you know, and you know, that's also something that's really, that I love about bluegrass and old time music, is it's this language that you know, you can bring to a jam session with people you never met before, and just, you know, start a jam, and you know, you don't even need to know the other people's names yet, you know. But you're there and you're playing a standard tune, and you're being creative with, you know, someone who was a stranger 5 minutes ago. So it's a cool thing. And yeah.
When I would imagine anybody who's watching this right now probably has some interest, maybe has been to a show or an event like that, a bluegrass gathering. But if you've never done it, boy, I tell you what, make sure you get out and do that, because even if you don't play, there's just something magical about just standing there and taking it all in, as you've got people just you know, grouped off in different sections of a campground or in a building where they're maybe just poked in every nook and cranny, just playing, and just all that activity, man. It's really something.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, yeah, I remember going to like my first bluegrass festival, and you know, it was different for Alan because he just kind of grew up and all that. But you know, when I went to my first bluegrass festival as a teenager, I was like blown away by just the energy and all the picking, and you know, the community. And it's still something that really excites me. So,
well, I tell you what, speaking of energy and a little picking, would you do a little more picking for us?
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to do a tune that we recorded on our new record. It's one that I wrote, and it's also probably a good time to mention a little bit about this kind of banjo that I'm playing here. So this is what they call an open back old time banjo. And it's a style that you don't see a whole lot in bluegrass, although it is there. But it's more associated with old time music, which is just an older musical style that has its roots in Celtic fiddle tunes and Southern blues, and much like bluegrass, but it's been around a long time. And these are generally the kind of banjos they play in that style. And sort of a new thing that's going on in the Wooks is we're incorporating a little bit more of that into our style and sound. We still do a lot of 3-finger too, but we love old time music, and it's been fun to work up some songs in that vibe a little bit. But anyway, here's one I wrote that's on the new record, and it's called Virgil's Prayer. I was born a Baptist son in the land of Illinois. God, fear, and family was his pride and joy, my father's pride and joy. Sent to church on Sunday morning to learn the righteous way, to prepare our souls to fly on the coming judgment day, Lord, the coming judgment day. Never thought I'd leave my home to live a life of sin, chasing fortune on the road, crooks and desperate men, Lord, crooks and desperate men. Before we ride the train, they say, Virgil, won't you pray? God, protect our wicked souls to make it through this day, Lord, to make it through this day. So bad down the hatches, boys, storms moving in, the ones they are howling. You can hear them on the wind, you can hear them on the wind. The devil seeks to tear you down and lead your life astray. Trusting in the word of God, you live another day, you might live another day. We took the train and the engineer gun pointed at his head. Tell you where the money is, please don't kill me dead, boys, please don't kill me dead. As I knelt down to him untied, lady quickly drew. I shot him twice and left him for dead. From the scene we flew, boys, from the scene we flew. I sit here in a 6x8 to mourn my dreadful crime. I hear the sound of thunder and a lonesome whistle whine, Lord, a lonesome whistle whine. And every night before I rest, I kneel down to pray, my knees upon the cold hard floor. I can hear my Father say, Lord, I hear my Father say. So back down the hatches, boys, storms moving in, the ones they are howling. You can hear them on the wind, you can hear them on the wind. The devil seeks to tear you down and lead your life astray. Trusting in the word of God, you live another day, you might live another day.
More great stuff there from the Wooks. Again, if you're just joining us here with George Guthrie and Alan Cook of the Wooks, and hey, we were talking earlier about songwriting. Tell me a bit about that creative process. When you come up with material for an album, what does that writing collaboration look like?
Well, it varies in different bands, but kind of the way it works for us is we tend to do a lot of the sort of the bulk of the songwriting individually, and then someone will bring a song to the band, and then it's sort of a collaborative process and working it up, in the band and arranging it for the band, as they say. But there have been co-writing moments, but it tends to be a more individual thing that and then the songs that each individual write come together to make this collective project, that we call the album.
So, as far as the album that's just getting ready to come out, what did the process look like for this? Because I know it was different with the pandemic, and you had some limitations there. Who contributed what to this project?
Well, CJ, who's our, the founding member of the band and guitar player, brought a lot of the material, maybe the majority of the songs.
There's a fair amount by Harry too,
Yeah,
I'd say.
and Harry, our mandolin player, contributed a lot too. And yeah, he's been writing a lot in the last couple of years, and he's really become a great songwriter too. And he brought a good number of songs. I brought one that I'd written. The one we just played is one that I wrote, and I brought another song to the album that I did not write, but a friend of mine who's a great songwriter named Willie Carlisle from Arkansas wrote. And
a beautiful instrumental.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I did bring an instrumental.
Great banjo song.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's, where the majority of the source material came from. But as far as the process went, initially we got together at a cabin out on a lake in East Tennessee, for the weekend, and, just turned our phones off and just sat down and worked these songs up, and it really went well, and
recorded some demos, did some fishing. It was a good time. And
there you go.
Yeah. I thought some really good creative stuff came out of that. There's probably, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 songs from that trip that we didn't even alter too much from the arrangements we did that first time too, which was cool. Just seemed like to come together really naturally, which is always fun.
Well, I wonder about that. When you are a group and you throw everything on the table and everybody says, "This is what I got," is there stuff in there that you hear and you're like, "Nah, I don't really think so," or do you listen to it and you're like, "Well, we can work with this"?
That's a good question. I mean, yeah, I mean, the answer is yes. There are songs that we bring that, for whatever reason, a song that I bring might not sound as strong as some of the other songs. It's usually not that like a song that someone brings is bad. It's just maybe that it hasn't like been imagined in it the right way yet, and some songs take more time to develop. I mean, for example, there's a song on Flyin High called Butler Hayes that CJ had been like kicking around this like chord progression for like 5 years or something, and like maybe he said he might have like showed it to some, prior band members, and they were like, "I don't know, man. Like, I don't hear it, And then he had to like keep writing it, and then he brought it to the session, and then it's like, clicked immediately, and it's like one of the most hard hitting songs on the record, and so yeah, it's just, when someone brings a song to you, it might be ready to be worked up, or it still might need more time to be developed,
So this new album, Flyin High, is the Wooks' third studio album. It's set to be released February 25th. And unlike the previous two albums in which the group gathered together in studios, I understand that this was recorded over 2 sessions in the Nashville home of bluegrass artist Jake Stargell. How did that collaboration come about, and what were those sessions like?
Well, I mean, Jake's just a buddy of everybody. It seems like he's a great dude, very talented, both on guitar, of course, but a fantastic engineer. And yeah, it was just a comfortable place. Also, recording during the pandemic, you kind of want to go for it just felt natural to seek out friends, seek out a comfortable environment, have kind of that home atmosphere. And it really lended itself well to our creative process this time. We self-produced it. We didn't have a producer, partly just because of logistics during that time in the summer of 2020 to get that. It's like we didn't really feel great about Skyping in a producer, and there's hurdles outside of that too. And then our arrangements were just kind of seamlessly coming together anyways. So yeah, and with the self-production and the home atmosphere and the talent Jake has and how easygoing he is and inviting of an atmosphere he provides just in his own person, it's kind of a no-brainer move, and I'm really glad we did it that way.
I understand that there were a lot of solos and vocals that were just raw tracks, no click tracks, no auto tune, just some live, authentic audio.
Yeah, nothing was to a click, which we're very proud of for this album. At least for me, it's my first time doing a whole album with no click. And there's a cool liveliness that comes from that.
Yeah, we wanted it to feel and sound like an intimate, almost like jam session, because that's kind of where a lot of the magic of this music comes from, is these like informal gatherings that you might have in a living room with your buddies playing music. And it's very common practice to put on a click and fly a bunch of solos in from people in different studios and even in the more like pop realm, there's all kinds of like auto tune and compression going on and stuff. And that's not to say that we didn't do any editing, there's some things we could fix, but the bulk of the record is definitely just raw tracks, just live in the studio.
How much do you guys like that whole editing process? I mean, did you know much about it coming into it, and is that something that you have really gotten your hands on over the years?
Yeah, I mean, on previous records, there's always been a lot of editing to work through, and I hate it personally. I mean, it's like I like I love the early stages of working up the songs and then performing them in the studio and then going and playing them live. That's for me the most fun and rewarding. I do realize that to make things ready to listen to on the radio or on a stream or on an album, it's good to do some editing, but I don't know. I'm kind of like becoming more of a purist in the sense that like I kind of just like think that a recording should just be you go turn on the mic and let the creativity flow,
Right.
Like I was like on the way up here, I was listening to like a Beatles record. It was Let It Be, the Beatles record, Let It Be. And like, there's like, this is like a timeless album that sold like millions of copies. It's like, probably in the top 100 albums of all time. And like, there's just like 30 seconds at the beginning of a song where they're just like making like weird noises into the mics, and they just like left it on there, because it's like kind of part of the vibe of the studio and just kind of captures a creative moment there. So,
yeah, I mean, editing, it can have its place. There's very useful superhuman per se resources that can come from editing, all the tools available. For a project like the Wooks, I don't really, I'm not a huge fan of editing things too much, but it's been super helpful for me in the past when I've done session work and I don't know the song. Sometimes I'm hearing it for the first time while I'm, tuning up my dobro in the studio. And in those situations, it's really helpful because time is money, and you need to get things down and let the engineers and producers and the artist piece together your initial thoughts, musical thoughts, and do what they will. So I have an appreciation for editing, but I think it's important to use it modestly when the right project is underway.
So when this project was finished, all the mixing and mastering was done, and you got the final product, did everybody sit down and listen to it together, or did you all listen to it individually? And what was that whole experience like when you heard it for the first time completed?
Man, by the time that rolled around, we had all listened to it like individually so many times that I mean, actually, I do remember we were driving up to Lexington to play a gig, and I think we did listen to the whole record.
And we listened to it once on the 2-week tour. I think when we were up around Cape Cod, we may have listened to it in the van once. So I think I can think of 2 like van travel moments where we listened to it all together, spaced out enough. You got to let it breathe when you listen to it that many times over. And then me personally, I drove back to Colorado for the holidays and got my first CD printed version of it, and I put it on the car on that drive a couple times and just kind of reflected back at, well, finally we're gonna have this out there in the air circulating. So
what did you think of it when you heard it back like that?
Well, I always find when I hear music that I've recorded back, there's always things I pick up on way later. And this album has so many fun little nuances, and I'm just like trying to recreate the memories of those takes, and like, because there's just little funny, playful, very minute things, but maybe it's just a little play on a rhythmic feel that somebody plays off of one another on a tune, or some small thing like that where you can kind of just hear the personalities of each person coming through their instrument. And that was a big takeaway I had that drive.
Well, the first single off that album is out now. It's the title track, Flyin High. What can you tell us about this song, and what can you tell us about this video?
Well, it's a song that was written by CJ, our guitar player, and it's a shame that he's not here to give you the full, Kentucky bona fide storytelling synopsis that he would surely give. But it's a song, that was inspired by a story that he heard from his family about a guy having a crazy, run-in with a faulty plane and faulty, old biplane. And I feel like I shouldn't tell too much of the story because I'm not like, it's not from the source, but, so that was kind of the initial inspiration, but he also kind of worked in just some stories about other people he knew in his extended family growing up. And, it's kind of just like a reflection on, like tall tales that are told in families in rural areas. Although this isn't really a tall tale, it's pretty true from what I understand. So that's sort of, my best, attempt to describe the material or the subject. But as far as stylistically with the music, CJ is a big fan of the band, and I think you can kind of hear that influence on this tune. And for example, there's a moment where there's fiddle and dobro on this track, and on this particular tune, CJ wanted to try, like, what if there was a moment where the dobro and the fiddle were kind of like playing simultaneous like melodies. They were kind of weaving in and out of each other, you know, which is, you don't hear very often because it's, you know, the way songs are usually arranged is it's like, you know, verse, chorus, and then the dobro solo, and that's his moment, or it's the banjo solo. You know, it's less common to hear these sort of interweaving solos. So that's, you know, sort of a stylistic thing that we were exploring on that. And yeah, it's, you know, it was also the last song, the last original that was brought to the table before we went to record. And, you know, we worked it up really quickly. And, you know, when CJ brought it to the band, it was kind of just like a, you know, a shell of a song that hadn't been fully realized. But when we played it with the band, it was like, you know, it just clicked. It was like, of course, you know, this works, you know, it sounds like a real song now. So it was really satisfying. And yeah, I think it makes a great title track. And the video, yeah. So the video is totally CJ's exploration. You know, he's really into, like, you know, animated stuff, and you know, his good buddy Tyler Childers has a lot of videos that have been, you know, animated, and he was really wanted to try to explore that in this song. And it, you know, it worked out great because the song kind of tells a story with distinct scenes, and yeah, we're really happy with the way it turned out. And
yeah, cool thing about the animation too is the guy who did it, when he was, you know, thinking about the ideas of how to best portray this, he ended up contacting CJ, getting a hold of the real life people who are talked about in the song, and just kind of talked with them, interviewed them to kind of get their voice, and then filmed them talking too, so he could emulate their facial mannerisms in the best he could in the animation. I thought that was really cool.
That's awesome. Did they get a chance to see the finished product?
I believe so.
Yeah.
And
it was very well reviewed by the characters in the.
I was going to say, but hopefully it had a favorable review there. We'll give everybody a chance to review it themselves here. I want to roll this now. This is the title track from the new album preparing to come out here from the Wooks. This is Flyin High.
Was a switchman on the C&O train, rolling a line out of Paintsville till he got his watch and chain. Love ran him down like a possum on the track, spit him down the middle, he found his They disappear to the White Oak Hills and the Licking River. Come stumbling back in the witching hour with the leaves all in their hair. Sometimes a plane goes down in the middle of the Johnson grass. Your mama, your daddy, your dear old granny waving as you make the pass. What goes up must come down, this I know is true. Be flying high till the day I die, so long as I'm holding you. Sometimes the plane goes down in the middle of the Johnson grass. Your mama, your daddy, your dear old granny waving as you make the pass. What goes up must come down, this I know is true. Be flying high till the day I die, so long as I'm holding you. Be flying high till the day I die, so long as I'm holding you.
Tremendous stuff from the Wooks there. Love it. Love the video. Love the song.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. Yeah.
That's got Kentucky. It's dripping with Kentucky.
Sure is, man. Yeah.
Just as far as touring goes, what does 2022 have in store for the Wooks?
Well, we're fixing to head out on the road for a pretty extensive tour beginning in the end of February. It's probably going to be about better part of 2 months, and we're, it's pretty much all East Coast. We will venture into the Midwest a little bit, but we're, it's going to start down in our region here in the Southeast, and then do more stuff up in the Northeast on the latter half of it.
Yeah, I believe we start things off at the Zanzibar in Louisville. Is that correct?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and then Huntington, then Lexington at the Burl, and then that's kind of the first weekend, CD release weekend, and then after that, it's a lot of traveling and all that fun stuff. We got about close to 30 dates this spring that we're very excited to. Yeah.
And then, moving forward into the rest of 2022, that kind of gets us into the beginning of summer, and things kind of shift a little bit in schedule. We tend to do more festivals and weekend runs. And we've got some exciting festivals lined up for this summer, which we're pumped about. And then, as we move into the fall, we've got a lot of unconfirmed stuff in the fall, but, so it's too early to say where exactly we'll be, but we tend to shift back into touring mode at that time. So yeah, we're really excited to get out there and share this music with the world.
And I know there's pockets of bluegrass fans all over this country, but where are some of the hot spots, some of the places that you really get excited to play?
Man, we love playing right here in our own backyard. Kentucky is such a strong market for our band. The band started in Lexington, so every time we go up there, it's like party time. And so we love playing there. We love playing in Nashville, but we love playing in Colorado also, just because we have such close ties to that state. Alan being from there, and I used to live there as well, so that's always a good time when we get to go out there. And yeah, man, Texas is really fun. We do really well down there, and
there's pockets everywhere. There's great
Yeah.
fans of the genre just about everywhere, it seems like, and just globally speaking too. I can't say enough about how awesome it is to see the love for the bluegrass music spread around the world. So,
and this band has been around for a while now, and it's starting to become a known commodity. But how exciting is it when you start to hear from places that you wouldn't even have thought of the music being, or you just hear from fans who have just become just rabid fans of the group?
it's cool, man. Like we're kind of at the stage now where people will like travel to come see us play, you know, like fans will come up to the merch table after a show and, you know, they drove like through the night from wherever they're from to hear us play. And it's kind of humbling, you know, because like we're we're just a bunch of bluegrass pickers, you know, but it's really cool to see, man, that, you know, it's really cool to see a song, you know, that was just born in a living room, and then see the journey of it being worked up by the band and then being recorded on a record. And then you see a fan out in the crowd singing along, and, you know, it's a song that they connect with their friends, you know, through, and it's a beautiful thing, man. It's hard to fully explain, but it's really rewarding and keeps us working at it, you know.
One day it's a song on a fishing trip. The next day it's a song on somebody's lips, huh?
Pretty much.
It's pretty crazy. What are some of the long-term goals for this group?
Man, I mean, we're just, you know, trying to play music and enjoy life, man. You know, like, you know, we all are professional musicians, so we would love to, you know, have this band be a livelihood. But, you know, it's tough, you know, sometimes, you know, as the band has already been through, like lineups change and people come and go. But, you know, at the core level, this band is really a group of friends that are going to stay that way, you know, regardless of where the band takes us, you know. So I think that's really our first priority, you know, in all things, is really just to remain friends and keep playing music together, you know, whether we're still the Wooks in 20 years, you know, playing festivals and touring, or we're just still buddies picking in our living rooms. It doesn't matter, as long as we're, you know, still buddies and making music and loving life. So,
But if you do that, it seems like the music is that much more authentic and thus that much more enjoyable, isn't it?
yeah, for sure, man. Definitely.
Well, I tell you what, if folks want to follow along with your career, buy some of that great looking merch you've got out there on your website, or keep up with your touring schedule, where can they go to do that?
Well, we're on all the social media platforms, and our website is wookoutamerica.com, and that's also our Instagram handle, where we're actively posting content and information about shows and upcoming singles and you know, the day-to-day happenings of the band. So you should follow us there. And yeah.
Well, I tell you what, George and Alan, I want to thank you guys so much for taking the time to join us here on Rural Strong Live. I want to invite you and the rest of the Wooks to come back and join us here anytime you have new music to share here.
We would love that. It's been a pleasure playing for you. Thanks so much for having us on.
Yeah, thank you so much.
We want to send a shout out to CJ and tell Harry to get better soon here. And maybe someday down the road, we'll all get together for a cherry pie and a jar of shine. How about that?
All right.
That sounds good to me, man.
And we want to thank everybody else out there so much for joining us. And we want to invite you to meet us back here again Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, is Rob Aldridge, frontman for Rob Aldridge and the Proponents. Checks in here. They've got an up and coming group out of the Muscle Shoals area. They're going to join us. They've got a newly released album that we're going to talk about. We'll even hear some of their great music. Again, that's going to be Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You're on the Rural Strong Media Facebook page and YouTube channel. And we also invite you to subscribe to the Tractors and Troubadours podcast, where each week we bring you agriculture industry newsmakers, hot button industry issues, educational topics, outdoor lifestyle features, and the best in traditional country music. And Tractors and Troubadours can be found at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Deezer, Audible, Odyssey, and now on the new Samsung Free app. And we'd be honored if you would subscribe. give us a rating, leave us a comment so we can reach as many as possible with this content. Also be honored if you pay a visit to our brand new website, ruralstrongmedia.com. It features the Tractors and Troubadours podcast, as well as our live streams, educational blogs, and our 24/7 internet radio station, Rural Strong Radio, which features traditional country music, even a little bluegrass, folk, southern rock, and some inspirational music, along with our great original ag content. Again, the place to find it all is ruralstrongmedia.com. We want to thank our sponsors tonight, Concept Agritech and Gateway Seed and GoatLifeClothing.com. Well, friends and neighbors, the clock on the wall tells us it's time to get on out of here. So until Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, it's Brent Adams. Let's meet up here again, shall we? And bring along a friend.